Welcome everyone to the podcast. And before we get started on today's episode, I'm introducing you to my workshop season of empowerment. It's called the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Series, and it's a series of summer workshops to help activate your ADHD life, improve your wellbeing, and harness your potential. So I would love for you to join me on these empowering workshops, all individually accessible, and you can buy one all-access pass for all 7 of them. And they are designed to help guide you from self-doubt to self-acceptance, from overwhelm to ease, and from burnout to balance. So whether you're newly diagnosed with ADHD and or autism, you may be awaiting an assessment or just curious about your own neurodivergence, these workshops will guide and empower you to advocate for both yourself and your loved ones and help you access more self-acceptance and welcome in self-compassion for all that you haven't known and didn't understand. And that is what I want to bring with these workshops. So let this be your awakening and your activation to better times ahead. Like me, and probably you, after decades of navigating life without guidance or validation, I believe it's time for us to understand and embrace all the emotional and the physical impacts ADHD has on us. And with these expert insights, the psychoeducation, and this compassionate support through the workshops, I want to help you find your true self and really blossom with confidence and self-compassion and joy. So all the information is on my website. It's adhdwomenswellbeing.co.uk. You'll see all the dates. They start from the 18th of March. That's the first one. And it's how to rest and recharge your ADHD nervous system, brain, and body. It goes all the way through to the 24th of June. And like I said, if you buy this all access pass for 7 of the workshops, you'll get the bonus session on the 8th of July, which is a Ask Me Anything Q&A, really there to answer as much as I can within reason. And I really hope that you will join me. So like I said, head to my website. It's adhdwomenswellbeing.co.uk and you'll find all the information on the workshop topics and the dates. They're all going to be 1:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, UK time, and there will be recording. So even if you buy the all access pass and you want to watch them in your own time, that's fine. But if you watch them live, you will get access to being able to interact with others, but also myself on the question chat box. And I will be able to answer some of your questions towards the end of the workshops. And now on to today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Wisdom episodes. These are the shorter bites for you. And today I have a really interesting part of a conversation that I had with the children's author Louise Gooding. And I wanted to include this piece of the conversation because I think it's so relatable to many of us about finally uncovering the reasons why we may have felt that our potential was never quite accessed or not quite understanding why certain things were so challenging for us. And this comes from a late in life ADHD diagnosis, which is what Louise had. And she is now a brilliant author. She's published several books and she explains very honestly how difficult that was and how, throughout the process there was imposter syndrome and anxiety and all the worries and the fears that come with authoring a book and putting it out there, but also navigating this late in life diagnosis, navigating what that means, but finally being able to understand and accept herself and accept that this is the way she may process information, the way she might work. And it gives a huge amount, I think, of hope to people who think that they are never going to realise their potential. So I hope that if you are listening to this right now and there's things that you want to do and there's things you want to achieve, but have found it difficult because maybe you've not quite understood your wiring or your brain, that this conversation helps you find something within you to accept who you are, offer yourself some self-compassion, dust yourself off, and do what feels good to you in the way that feels good to you. And if in doubt, always ask for help. So here is my conversation with Louise Gooding. We're playing catch up. And the fact that you've already published 3 incredible books in the space of time that you have had your diagnosis is unbelievable. So is it 5 or 6 years you've published 3 books and you got your diagnosis around? Yeah. So what were you doing? So tell me a little bit about life before, pre-diagnosis, pre-writing books. What was going on for you?
I guess I always joke to people, I'm like the stereotypical like poster girl of like trying to find herself. Um, I had a million and one hobbies. I never stuck with anything. I was always trying to find the thing that would be my thing. Uh, my partner at the time was always like, you have a craft room, Louise. I had a craft room of all of like the hobbies I had started and then got bored. But I'm
Yeah,
going
know this one well.
to sell it, and it's going to be great. I'm going to be an artist. No, I'm not. I'm going to be this, or I'm going to do that. Um, I just didn't know. And as I said, because for me especially, I really struggled. I was kind of scared of education and going back into it. I'm quite open about that because I just felt it was inaccessible, and I didn't know why. Now I do. As I said, I went back. Actually, it was last year that I went and had further diagnosis and help for why was I still struggling? Like, why was I unable to access things? I couldn't, having an ADHD diagnosis was great, but where were my strengths and weaknesses? Like, really, I wanted to know more. And they
How did you do that? Who did you do that through?
So I went through. I was in Switzerland at the time, and I was at a clinic there because I'll be honest, I was having a bit of a mental health breakdown with, my daughter was not having particularly great access to help and support in the Swiss education system. I don't think it's all over everywhere, but where we lived, especially, it was not great. And I was, as I said, talking about that trauma thing. I really struggled watching her go through that. And I basically was trying to then obviously keep up with, my work, my writing. And I would be like, but I'm, sometimes I do things and I forget, or, I should be doing more and I want to now go and study this, but I don't know how I go and study this because I'm obviously capable, but I just can't unlock something in my brain. And so I went to this clinic and they were fantastic. And I saw an ADHD specialist who basically said, your working memory is really not great. It's you have a learning disability because you just don't, unless she worked out if it was done a specific way, I'm good. And I'm a practical person. Show me with movement and things, and that I retain things. Asking me to repeat numbers, if you said to me now 6 numbers in a row, I'd probably remember 2 of them. I just literally can't, my brain just freaks out. And that was my whole thing of like, I want to go back to education, but I don't know, again, is it something, I said I was scared before, and I was scared now to do it. So that's why I went and had this clinic, diagnosis to say, is it a possibility, or is there something stopping me, or is it just me stopping me because of, past experiences in my school life? So getting that was really, really helpful. But yeah, beforehand it was, I was just doing a bit of everything. I was a children's entertainer for 3 years, which I absolutely loved. And that worked really well with my personality. I guess everything I've done beforehand have always led me, to where I am now. And I feel comfortable where I am now. But I tried everything. I was never sure where I was going to be or what I was going to do.
I hear this all the time of women who spend pretty much their whole life soul searching and looking, why can't I just stick at something? Why can't I just find my thing? And we berate ourselves and we sort of, it's like, well, why can't I just do it and stay put? And then we get this diagnosis and it's kind of like, okay. And it's a lot more acceptance. And then you start leaning into that creativity. And what's interesting, I can hear you saying that all the things kind of just that you'd been doing was building up. And then maybe that diagnosis just gave you that full permission to kind of go, I'm just going to do the thing. I'm going to write the books. I also hear a lot of people with ADHD, they love writing. I mean, I also love writing and they have lots of incredible ideas. But you went from having the ideas, writing a proposal. How did you get over the finishing line? Like, how's that? Did you get an agent? Like, did you send it out to publishers? How did it work?
It really is an ADHD naivety, spontaneity, just go for it
Mm-hmm.
attitude. I had a friend when I was like, I put together this proposal, and she'd been writing for years. She was very nice and very supportive. And she's like, yeah, but Louise, just remember, I've been doing this for many, 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 many years, and it doesn't just happen overnight. And just be aware. And I think I sent it to only 3 agents. I didn't realize you were meant to send it to like about 200, and I'm not the person to follow everyone. People need to understand that this does not happen ever. But I sent the Just Like Me proposal to my agency and Madeline Milburn. And the agency just picked it up and said there's nothing out there like this at the time, and they were interested in what I had to say, why I was doing it, why I was so inspired to write these books. And obviously I'm still with them, and they've been amazingly supportive of sort of helping me write books which all kind of feature around the brain. Didn't mean to them all have a brain link, but they all have a brain link. And I was just incredibly lucky. I think right time, right place. I think the hardest thing with doing this process is it requires a lot of putting yourself out there. And I have got other neurodiverse authors who I'm friendly with who have been through the long process of sending out work and getting rejection after rejection, which is incredibly difficult when, as again, ADHD as neurodiverse folk tend to suffer from RSD, rejection sensitivity. And so it's really difficult going in. And even when you're in the door, you still sit there and go, but do they still like me? Am I doing enough? Am I working enough? Do I deserve to be here? Because I feel like, I've just plonked myself in here. And as my friend said, a place which takes some people like 5, 10, 20 years to get into. Should I be here? All of those things start going around your head again of like, oh, it's a fluke and now I've got to keep going, and oh, maybe I can't write really, and it was just this one thing. And
I understand.
I've been really lucky with Madeline Milburn as the agency. They've been really encouraging. We've had a few sit downs where I've been at one time like going, am I pigeonholing myself? That's the other thing I worry about. I don't want to just talk for all neurodivergent people. I get sometimes really worried, and they have to sometimes sort of say to me to calm down and like stop overthinking it. You're doing a good job, and the fact that you sit there and panic constantly shows that you do care. It's so important to me that all this is done properly and inclusive. I think there's always space for more books that talk about neurodivergence, and I hope that the majority of them are written by people who have experienced it. I think it's incredibly important. We have experts who I guess, study it, but I always feel that we can see those books, if you know what I mean. There's some of the books we've read before, which are just facts and figures and block text, and they're very like heavy. I think sometimes you need someone who wants to find the pride and the celebration and wants to break through that stigma. Again, I say with the fire underneath them to be like, no, let's change this up. So hopefully I'm going to write some more, and hopefully there are other people inspired to do it, because I think there's always space for, more books like this in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And lastly, can I ask, I can see, now you've had your diagnosis, you've written these amazing books, you maybe have found that kind of that thing that you were looking for. How do you feel in yourself now that you're starting to understand your brain better? Like, do you feel that you have things under control, or there's still struggles for you?
I never have anything under control. Sorry. I'm just going to be,
because that's so important for people to know, that they're sort of hearing this, and you've got an agent, you've written books, and you know all of this, but actually it's still a daily kind of challenge, isn't it?
Am I doing enough? Am I saying the right things? Am I speaking to the right people? Am I going to be like the one hit wonder? And that's it, I disappear. There's all of these anxieties, and what comes next, or should I be studying more? Should I be doing things more? Should I be backing up a lot of my work with, should I be now going to university and getting a degree in all of these things? And actually, I have to sometimes give myself a bit of grace and patience, but I still haven't got things together. I mean, I've just moved back to England 2 weeks ago. I'm in the middle of just chaos, and that's my life. It's chaos. Would I change it? Sometimes for a quieter life, but also no, because I think I'd probably get quite bored without the chaos. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We have to learn to. That's part of our brain and our life, and we can learn to resent it and hate it, or we can just laugh at all the obstacles it throws at us if we can. I understand. I've been in dark places too, so I do understand it's sometimes difficult just to hear someone say that when you're not feeling that. But as soon as we can kind of find the humor, and find the positives that we are putting out in the world. And if you've not found that path yet, maybe it's you're not finding your thing yet, as you said earlier. But I think once we have the opportunity to work with our energy and to find our positives of what we are putting out there, it's easier to give ourselves a bit more patience and grace with who we are. But not using that energy as a negative source and put yourself down. Because even if the one thing you did today was pick up a piece of litter on the street, well, good for you. That's amazing. And you've done something which might look like nothing, but actually sure has a rolling on effect. I think people need to, give themselves a bit more kindness. So, but I'm just going again, live ADHD, go off on a million tangents.
I just think, no, you know what? I genuinely believe that these conversations, these honest conversations where we talk about the vulnerabilities, we talk about the successes and the strengths, but we also recognize that it's an ebb and flow, and we have the good stuff, but the stuff that's not so easy is challenging. And the fact that, you're openly admitting there's this imposter syndrome and anxiety, and, externally people may be sort of seeing you as this celebrated published author, but actually just very finely beneath the surface there's all these worries and imposter syndrome. And I think it's just important that people know that you can have the success, but there's always going to be the other stuff behind it. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this shorter episode of the ADHD Women's Wellbeing podcast. I've called it the ADHD Women's Wellbeing Wisdom because I believe there's so much wisdom in the guests that I have on and their insights. So sometimes we just need that little bit of a reminder, and I hope that has helped you today, and look forward to seeing you back on the brand new episode on Thursday. Have a good rest of your week.